In race 1 at Atlantic Motorsport Park, Alex Dumas and Ben Young were pushing each other for the lead, just like they've done all season long. However, halfway through the race, Dumas made a costly mistake, crashing his GSX-R 1000 and ending up with a DNF. Can Dumas recover here in race 2 and close the point gap on Young? And welcome to Atlantic Motorsport Park, Nova Scotia for Pro Superbike feature race number 6 on the 2022 season. There is Ben Young. He and Alex Dumas have been duking it out all season long, and we have no reason to expect anything different here today. As Pro Cycle and Air Eye Helmets proudly present the Canadian Superbike Championships. Brought to you in part by BS Battery, Joe Rocket, and Kawasaki.
Our field heads out for their single warm-up lap on Sunday afternoon. Extremely hot conditions here. Yesterday, perhaps a watershed event in the series because Young and Dumas fought it out, and it ended up that Young took the win and now has a very big points leading over Alex Dumas. There you can see the front row. Trevor Daley completing the front row. Michael Leon, Sebastian Tremblay, often sparring partners, starting together in row 2. Of course, the grid here at Shubenacadie is very close to turn 1, and a lot of action happens in those first 15 seconds or so. So we'll see what happens this time. Of course, a lot of attrition in our field, both for Pro Sport Bike and our Superbike feature this season. A lot of riders out with injury.
And just before our start, let's check in with Hannah Streak, our Dunlop pit reporter.
Thanks, guys. 2021 defending CSBK champion Alex Dumas and his Liqui Moly Fast School Suzuki GSX-R 1000 had a DNF in race 1 here at Atlantic Motorsport Park. This disappointing result now leaves him trailing by 26 points. I talked to Alex and he said that his right knee puck fell off midway through the race, which was really uncomfortable and distracting to him. Thankfully, crew chief Patrice Goyette was able to fix his bike, and now he's looking forward to getting back on top of the box. Back to you.
Thank you, Hannah, and now we get ready to watch the Bickle starting lights. In tradition, of course, the lights will all come on independently, and then somewhere between 1 and 5 seconds, those lights will go off. When the lights go off, the field will launch. They're ready to go. Looked like some creeping there, a little bit of creeping perhaps by Dumas, but no penalty assessed that we know of. Here we go now, down into turn number 1. There are 3 abreast going in there.
Amazing. Trevor Daley almost got the whole shot, but I think he decided to be just slightly cautious. Now he's in third right beside Tremblay.
Tremblay having a look and see if he can squeeze it up in the third spot. He on the Turcotte perform. Oh no! Leon's gone down. Michael Leon has gone down. Oh man, what a start. And if I'm not mistaken, Colin, that was his 50th Superbike start.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to stop because he was not getting up there. So that start may not count. We'll see what happens, but a red flag seems very likely, and we'll have to go back to our original grid.
And it doesn't look to me as though Michael Leon is going to be able to restart. He's kind of slow getting up. Colin.
Here we see him following Guerin out of the turn 2 hairpin onto that rough patch of new pavement, and then something happens. I think maybe the back end broke loose. He almost caught it, and he got flung pretty hard on the exit of 2.
Ernest Bernard just getting by. As the field obviously will now make their way back up onto pit row, and we'll assess the damages to both Michael and that motorcycle, and hopefully have a restart very shortly. And Michael, of course, stood on the podium yesterday with a 3rd place finish. Hopefully he'll be able to restart today. We'll be right back on TSN. Closed captioning of the Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by Liqui Moly, GODERICH Toyota, MotorcycleCourse.com, and Dunlop. And as promised, we are back here at Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia for the restart now. And sadly, we don't have Michael Leon on board, Colin.
Royal distributing back Leon on his BMW, should be on row 2 beside Tremblay, but he is going to miss the start.
Lights are on, lights are off. We are away and running once more. And I think this time, Daly, no, he did not get the start he wanted. He is in second spot, right in behind Dumas. And our 2019 champion, Ben Young, is running in third just now.
This is an interruption of our normal service. Trevor being in the middle of the Alex and Ben show, at least based on last year's points. At the moment, it's actually the Ben and Alex show.
You'll remember last year, of course, it was the wild child that got the start and actually led the Superbike final for quite some time before he got overtaken by eventually Ben Young.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that's 2019. We had a little COVID interruption in there.
Well, pardon me for a year miss there on that one, and we certainly did miss it. It looks to me, Colin, like Dumas is making up for yesterday. I think this kid's going for a ride.
Well, the question is what's going on behind him, because Ben Young is momentarily diverted by his friend Trevor. These guys are good buddies, but typically Young is first or second, so this is quite a change from normal proceedings. And as you pointed out, Frank, Trevor has a good history here. Yesterday morning he had a huge crash which really set his program back, but he did test here earlier in the year, and he has good pace and has had good pace at this track. He won a pro sport bike race here a few years ago.
We're on board with him right now. As a matter of fact, as we look around the outside of Daly, yeah, he's got it done. He's got it done now. He sets his sights on Dumas. This should be interesting to see if he can close up on Dumas, and if he can, how quickly.
Interesting to see the amount of suspension travel being used on the BMW here. This is still a fairly rough track, even though some of it has been repaved, and you can see that Young's team has opted to use as much of that chassis as they can.
Tremblay running back in fourth spot. It looked to me like he was closing up on Daly when last we saw him. We'll see if we can pick up on him next time around. Daly, no, Daly is maintaining a safe distance in front of the shaker right now.
And the question always is, after you've had a very big crash, what is your pace going to be like coming back? And here we see Dumas leading pretty handily, one of his best efforts so far this year. I don't remember him leading right from the start previously this season, so this is a good sign. Although the problem is Young can afford to let him win, right? Young has pretty much a race in hand. So what really Dumas needs is for Young to engage and see if he can cause some mayhem.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. But coming into this round, I mean, we went through the first 4 rounds of this season. We come into race 5 yesterday here at Atlantic Motorsport Park with only 1 point difference between Young and Dumas. So that crash yesterday, and Young is closing, by the way, that crash yesterday has cost Dumas dearly.
And don't forget Friday in our BS Battery Super Pole, these guys tied to the 1,000th, and we needed a ruling to establish the grid. So if we're debating if this is a competitive season, I think we can safely say there is very little to choose between the Suzuki and the BMW, and their riding styles, as we've highlighted this season, are similar in terms of being very smooth, precise riders who really know how to get the most out of our spec Dunlop rubber.
Well, you've been around this game a little bit longer than I have, and the period of time that I've been involved, I have never seen 2 riders that are so closely matched. Now, obviously, this footage that we're watching right now does not exemplify it, but these 2 riders have been so closely matched. I've never seen anything like it, Colin.
And a little part of you wonders, maybe Jordan Zoke wasn't out this year with that motocross injury. You know, he was always a catalyst for action at the front of races, a guy who was not very patient. Or Thomas Kazaz in the Yamaha, who's been out most of the season with an injured wrist, and we expect to see him at our next round at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But yeah, we're a couple of people short of what we expected to see this year at the front. But given that these 2 were the pace setters in the end last season, it's not a shock that even if the field had been full, that they'd be the riders to beat.
Back in 2019, Ben Young was in a very similar position as we watched him chase his way up. I think he was as low as 7th place after an off-track excursion. So he is very used to catching up to folks on this circuit.
Yeah, and that was actually, he was, I think, 10th or 11th, and he charged back and strung together a whole bunch of 108s, which is a really impressive pace here. We're not at that pace right now, and I am suspicious that Dumas has slowed up and wouldn't mind starting to race Ben Young. Maybe that can cause a little turmoil in our championship standings, and we'll be back to find out here on TSN with Race 6 Superbike action.
Here we are back at Atlantic Motorsport Park, and we are working lap number 10 of 20, so we're basically halfway through this race. And Colin, after Michael Leon's crash, we noted there was a bit of liquid sunshine in the air.
Yeah, it sprinkled just a little bit. It wasn't an issue, and of course, with the track being so hot, everything evaporates pretty quickly, but we definitely have clouds in the area, and this is not unusual here at Shubenacadie. And I wonder again if Dumas trying to back his way into Ben Young and see if these guys can race and maybe shake things up. Of course, there's no one close from behind. Daly, Tremblay, Garin are too far back to help Dumas, who desperately needs some help to push Young further down the standings and gain a bit of an advantage with 3 more races to go at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
And definitely Young is closing dramatically now as we go into the carousel. You can see the distance between them now. I would guesstimate that to be between 15 and 20 bike lengths, but it is rapidly evaporating now as we go through turn 11, and Young is on the march. He has definitely got the bullseye on the backside of Alex Dumas as they head down into 1.
Well, you say rapidly evaporating, and that's an interesting description because we are starting to get some drizzle, and I think Dumas has checked up because he is not certain. You look at the lap times there, they were pretty good, pretty solid. Not quite what we saw yesterday, but definitely
yes.
decent. But look at this, a little tiny bit of spray we can see on board with the camera on Ben Young's BMW there. He's got his leg hung out, so that suggests he's trying to indicate he's concerned about the change in adhesion, and I think both of these guys has eased up. Now watch Dumas here, because we're coming to where he crashed yesterday.
Yes.
This is where he's bound to be careful. He rolled it nice and easy over the top of the hill.
And look what happens as a result of it now as Young is on him. He is right beside him now, and Ben Young has taken the race lead.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a chess match, and I think Dumas was uncertain of the traction, and having had that gigantic issue a day ago, you can't blame him. That launch off the roller coaster can go really badly if there's an issue with traction. Yeah, look at this. Yeah. Definitely the guys have slowed down. So this is on board with Young as he gets ready to make the move. But Dumas is accelerating hard now, but he came off a hill very gently, and he pretty much made the decision that he wasn't worried about racing Young. And Young may have been a little bit surprised about how that played out.
Well, the rain that we're experiencing, the light rain that we're experiencing right now, is evaporating very, very quickly on the racetrack, but it is on the rider's face shield, and it's got to get in their minds.
Oh yeah, it's a distraction, and don't forget, these are the guys going the fastest on the whole track. But ironically, these are the guys who've slowed down the most of anyone on the track.
Tremblay continues to hold on to 4th spot. He has been doggedly in that position. Oh yeah, you can see the rain now as we go through the carousel. Definitely it is starting to rain. Of course, these riders are going to have to adapt to that.
On board with Dumas, you could just barely see Young. We saw him for a split second. Not a lot of spray, and that plays to what you said, Frank. The track being so very, very hot from the steady sunshine, middle of the summer, very warm conditions, it means that the track does evaporate.
Well, it's evaporating right now, but what if the rain gets harder, Colin? What if we have a wet track to deal with? What are we going to do?
I think if it gets much wetter than where we are now, and it's weird, on this end of the track, it doesn't seem to be raining. On the other end, it was much, look at that, the sun's out on this end right now. Yeah, we would have to stop. And of course, the start-finish line is where most of the race staff are, so you can see what the riders are going to do would be to indicate their suggestions. Of course, typically the guy in the lead doesn't want to stop, and the other people might. Here they go. It didn't seem to be any kind of signal there. As we head back down to where a lap ago there was much more rain. This camera here was the one that we saw the rain a lap ago.
And Ben Young's foot movement, then that communication that he was trying to do, was for naught.
Yeah, you can still see though, Frank. There's rain
there's
showing
the rain
there.
Again, yeah. Up through turn 3. Oh yeah, he's pointing to the sky. Yeah, we know, Ben. We understand, and he obviously has some concerns there. I don't see any slippage.
Conditions are still hot. The tires are very hot. The pavement is holding the heat from the sun. But yeah, if it goes much further, it's going to turn into an issue. We'll find out right after this.
We are back as Pro Cycle and Air Eye Helmets present Canadian Superbike Championships here at Shubenacadie. Brought to you in part by BS Battery, Joe Rocket, and Kawasaki. We are working lap number 15 of 20. 5 laps to go, and Dumas now closing up the distance a bit on Young. We may have a challenge happening here, Colin.
Yeah, I think now that the drizzle and the light rain has gone away, Dumas, wow, yeah, Dumas has picked up the pace. As we know, he needs to win this race. It's important in terms of the standings if he's going to fight his way back to continue as the #1 plate holder next year. And I'd say that's about 3 bike lanes.
Well, up the hill into turn number 11, and you can't even see Dumas. He's so close. He has made the pass now. The champion has returned the favor. He's gone back to the point.
And weirdly, in this chess match of a race we're having, Frank, it seemed like Ben Young wasn't all that aggressive coming up the hill and pretty much left the door open. I don't know what to tell you about what's going on between these two. They seem to be doing a bit of an after you, Alphonse kind of deal. So here we see Dumas, and look at Ben doesn't use the track, right? Ben stays way to the left, not on the traditional line, and there you can see Dumas on the brakes, making the pass nice and early. This track is tricky, none of it's flat, and the start-finish line is basically the breaking point for the pro Superbike riders. So lots going on there, and I don't think Ben was making any effort to hold Dumas up. I think he left the door wide open.
Well, twice now, Colin, we have seen Ben Young point to the sky, once with his foot and the next time with his finger. He seems to be the only person out there that is somewhat concerned with weather conditions.
Well, I still think it's spitting just a bit. I mean, obviously the sun's out, it's not raining hard, but the conditions are pretty strange. And of course, Young is in the driver's seat of the championship. He does not need to win this race, but here he is right on top of Dumas, which being that close to him, particularly at this turn where they had a collision yesterday, it seems like risky. Like if he's going to let Dumas go, he should just let Dumas go.
Perhaps so. Keeping in mind, of course, that Ben is a racer, and of course he's thinking about the points, he's thinking about the championship, but he's also thinking about his wallet getting a little thicker at the end of this.
Well, I think, you know, the video crew and the still photographers around the track always appreciate it when the top 2 guys ride together, because those are the images we want, right? #1 and the championship leader doing battle, so this is great in terms of media, but it is weird to me that Young is so very close to Dumas, and I'm not sure either of these guys have a strategy given we had that rain in the middle of the race.
Factor in also, Colin, what we have on the go here is a terrific battle between manufacturers. And of course, the Manufacturers Cup won by Suzuki, courtesy of Dumas and Daly last year. But Ben Young has made no secret about it at all. And I'm sure BMW Motorrad feels very much the same. They want that Constructors' Championship.
On board with that second place BMW of our points leader as we start another lap and head down the hill into turn 1. And you can see we often talk about these wide angle lenses. If the bike in front looks close, it's very, very close. Now let's hear from Hannah in the hot pit for the live update on our point situation.
Thanks, guys. Van Dolder's BMW, Ben Young, is currently in second place behind Alex Dumas. If Dumas is able to pull a victory, he will narrow the gap to 21 points. Ben knows that he was handed a gift with Dumas' race 1 crash, so he may be content to just sit in second place, but knowing Braveheart, he will likely still push for the win. Back to you.
Well, I think Hannah's words there were he will still push for the win, and we are on board with Braveheart right now, and we are pushing for the win, as a matter of fact, right on Dumas there. He looked a lot closer when they were coming up that hill, Colin, than when we got the side shot.
No, I think that run up the roller coaster for Young, he was thinking about making a pass, and again, it's not clear to me if Dumas pushing the pace. They've slowed up a little bit, and I don't know if they're unsure about the traction or what's going on with the two of them, but it's been a very strange race in terms of the leaders slowing and speeding up without any clear, seems like, ambition for that particular set of laps.
Well, we certainly understood when Dumas slowed down in the portion of the racetrack where he was upset yesterday, but why Ben appeared to slow up, I don't know whether it was Dumas' acceleration or Ben slowing up that caused the pass, but there we have it.
And you look at coming out of 2 there where Michael Leon fell at our first start, and Young is really pushing hard. He's so close, and I think this is a very risky plan to be this near, you know, given that he's trying to hold on to a very sizable points lead.
And here we are into that section of the race course where Alex had his problems, and we are working lap 19 of 20, and here comes Young. Young is on the gas as he is pulled up alongside, and he has finally made the pass. Man, they were mirroring one another for quite some time.
And I don't think Dumas would have appreciated that very much. He had to sweat out on the brakes as they start up the hill in 7, and that is a very difficult piece of track. You do not want to be pushed offline there, and Young was late on that move.
And Dumas' motorcycle was squirming under him as he came through the carousel there, and he closes up again onto the front straightaway. The last lap flag is out. This is it. One more go round.
Yeah, and don't forget, Dumas really needs the points, right? Any little bump he can get out of this is crucial. But look at, he doesn't seem as comfortable following Young as Young was right on top of him a lap ago. And of course, Young being on top of Dumas for several laps led to that pass off the back straight.
Quite so. Up and over turn number 4. Now they take the dive down into that territory. The long right-hander. It'll put him on the roller coaster. Here we go. Going for a ride on Shubanaki's infamous roller coaster.
And this is the spot where Dumas had his incident yesterday, so he hasn't been that aggressive, but that was a good launch. We'll see if he has the pace, but it doesn't look close enough. There's like one more spot to pass, and that's into the carousel.
Yeah, and he's not there. He is absolutely not there at this point in time. However, he does close up a couple of bike lengths, and he gathers up a bit more asphalt going into the carousel. This is a particular part of the racetrack where Ben Young has had great success, and yeah, he maintains his lead as they head up through Canfield corner number 11 on Shubenacadie. The checkered flag is next, and Ben Young has scored yet another national championship win in Canadian Superbike racing here in 2022.
Very narrow win there for our 2019 champion Young. 9th career Superbike win and more than a race in hand over Dumas. A very, very important win, and you could argue that he has at least one hand on the Canada Cup.
Yeah, he also knows where the cameras are. He's playing to them for sure. Braveheart, a very popular win here in New Scotland.
Lots of family and friends, and it's nice to see him celebrating, and you can't help but think Dumas is going to see this as one that got away. Daly a solid third, which, as you pointed out, helps in the manufacturer's point. Tremblay, Garin, Bernhardt, and Taylor, who is hanging in for more good points on that Ducati. Leon is checking on his injury suffered in that first start in the Turn 2 crash. Now let's hear from Han in the pit lane with our Victor.
All right, we are here with race 2 winner Ben Young. Boy, that was a great back and forth battle for the win, Ben. Walk us through it.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't really know what to do. I got past Alex, and I just didn't really know what to do. I was like, do I push, do I not? And he wasn't pushing me, so I'm just going to ride whatever pace I want to right now. And we were going slow. Obviously, the rain was actually a lot worse over there than it was here. And I was coming around the carousel one lap, look up, see the sunshine. It's like, we need it that way. And But yeah, I managed to get in front of Alex, and then I was kind of over with pushing the pace. So I decided to let Alex push the pace for a bit. And I wasn't planning on passing with 2 to go, but then I just got such a good run out the out 5, and so you know what, why not? And then put a charge on the last lap, and you know, worst comes to worst, he passes me, he wins the race, and you know, we're still got a good healthy lead. But to be able to do the double here is unbelievable. Yeah, thanks everybody. It's great to be out on the East Coast and clinch the double.
6 races of 9 complete, Colin, and look at the points.
Yeah, so we're in a situation where Young has more than a race in hand with 3 to go, and Dumas is going to need a lot of craziness on the back straight slipstreaming at Mosport to make this championship his again. Young looking in the driver's seat for his 2nd career number 1. There you can see him BMW with a good but not gigantic lead in the standings, particularly considering the very solid efforts of Daly this season.
Yeah, Daly and Dumas working together again to hopefully give Suzuki that manufacturer constructors championship. There's our podium from Shubenacadie. Our next stop, of course, is Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the triple header there. On behalf of the entire CSBK crew, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.